Hey everybody, my name is Christian Ross, and I'm an attorney with Campbell and Brannon, and my office is located in East Cobb and Marietta. And I wanted to do this quick video on a specific topic that a lot of you are dealing with, and that's whenever a client or even yourself are asking to own property in the name of their limited liability company, their LLC. This topic would also address something similar if they wanted to put it in a corporation or a partnership or something along those lines. Just kind of weighing the pros and cons, because doing this is actually really, really easy. We sign a new deed, we record it, and all of a sudden it's done. But the consequences of that and why you would do it or why you wouldn't are a little bit more complex. So let's jump right into it. This is one of a series of videos that we're going to have where we're talking about a very specific topic, and I call it the down and dirty 30, because my hope is that the video would be somewhat less than 30 minutes. It'd probably be significantly less than that, but very specific topic, where you can go a lot of directions on it, but it doesn't cover any other topic. So let's take a look at a handout that I've drafted, and I'll have this available to you as well. I'm going to send this live, and this is what it is. So why would you want to add property into an LLC, and why wouldn't you? And the number one reason why you would want to do this, other than just being told this is a good idea, is for liability, for insurance. So it's a way of protecting yourself from what may otherwise be an investment property or something on the side that you're using just to earn extra income. So the best example would be you're renting this property, or it's a fix and flip and you're just trying to earn a profit on it, and it's not where you typically live. So by putting it into an LLC, a couple of benefits of that. If something were to happen at the property, your name is not personally attached to that property. They're not going to sue you. Someone's not going to sue you for, in a lawsuit to get a judgment or a lien. It's not going to put a lien on any of your other property if that were to happen. That it's very localized. That it's basically in its own little bubble. And so whatever happens to that property, the worst that you could ever have happen would be that you would lose that investment. That's kind of the plan. It's that it's a limited liability. It's going to limit how much liability you have to that property. So the example in this handout is you own a rental home as well as several other assets, including your primary home. And in the event someone is hurt at the rental home, an injury or even death, the victim could sue the property owner. If owned by an LLC, the liability would be limited to the assets of the LLC, which in most cases would be just that property. Your other assets, such as your home, your cars, bank accounts, brokerage accounts, jewelry, would likely not fall under any liens that could accompany that issue. And I say likely because I don't want to say it's 100%. There are things that can happen that could break the corporate veil or pierce it. Very legalese term, but basically we have to, if we're going to treat it like a company, we have to really treat it like a company. So what are some of the other reasons? That's obviously reason number one. That's why your clients are being recommended they do this. It's why they're even asking the question. Number two might be privacy concerns. Let's say you are trying to shield what people know about how much you own and what assets you have and where they're located, who the real owner is, all that stuff. You may want to protect that because you don't want it to affect your day-to-day business. Maybe you're a lawyer, a doctor, a real estate agent. You don't want some sort of landlord issue to seep in and cause problems with you on how you earn your other income. I totally understand that. I had a client that was trying to protect privacy from or her identity from a stalker, someone that was trying to find her. So that would be another way to consider doing this. You might also think about taxes. So on an investment property, it might be easier to write off certain expenses and offset the income and keep everything separate from your other assets and your other income. Partners, and this would be another amazing reasons why you would want to do an LLC, is if you're buying this property with other partners. There is a risk that their personal lives could impact the ownership of this property. Best example would be if someone were to get a divorce. Let's say you bought the house with a college buddy, and the college buddy is going through a nasty divorce. Well, if you own this property in your personal names, that divorce is going to, really affect your ownership of that property. It could hold it up in a sale. It could, there's a lot of paperwork that would stop that property from being sold or refinanced or any of those sorts of things. But if you put it in an LLC, the divorce will affect that person's shares in the property or that ownership of the property's LLC, but it wouldn't stop an actual sale from happening. That would be the hope, at least. But let's look at the opposite side of this. Why would you not want to put it in an LLC? Quite honestly, it's more work, right? I don't want you or your client doing this if there's no upside. If it all it taking, if you didn't do the research and you're not educated about why you're doing it, none of those reasons above are reasons that you want to do it, then why are we doing it? It's going to cost more. There's a lot more paperwork. You've got to stay on top of the LLC. And here are some of the examples. So the insurance has to be changed. You'd have to have the insurance in the LLC. And the pricing might go up in that case. You have to open up a bank account for the LLC. You have to accept all rent payments through the LLC. You'd have to pay all contractors through the LLC. You'll need an operating agreement. You'll need to establish the LLC with the Secretary of State. And I would say most people, if you live in Georgia, you could use a Georgia LLC. And if you have partners in other states, you might need to do some other type of LLC. You might need to do a Florida LLC or something of those nature. Any contracts, any leases, that all have to be in the LLC, and there are fees also with this. And one of the costs that goes along with this would be actually filing additional tax returns, possibly. So you'd have to have your accountant, or if you did it yourself, it'd be an added level of due diligence in that. And then the other part is, and I said this when we were looking at the benefits of this, is that it's not foolproof. You really have to do everything perfectly to limit your liability. So one of the biggest issues we see is you do all this work to put it into an LLC, but you're personally fixing the property. You're the one fixing the roof, or you're managing it. You're the property manager, and because of your negligence, you caused this injury or damage to the property, to the victim, to the plaintiff. So if that's the case, yeah, you may have limited your liability as an owner of the property, but you're still getting sued because you're the one that caused this issue. In that case, they're gonna sue the LLC and you personally, and there may not be any way to stop that from happening. Also, you cannot prevent your own mistakes, just like in the previous example, from impacting this property still. So the best example I could have for you is if you are getting a divorce. Well, that's going to still affect your ownership of this property. It's not like you're shielding it from marital assets. Or if you got in a car accident and the victim sued you, or the insurance company sued you to come after a judgment, well, that judgment would impact all of your assets. Could bank accounts, property, LLCs, businesses, anything like that equally. It's all fair game in that case. So you can't protect anything you would do personally to this property, just the other way. Taxes, you could not apply for homestead if you chose to live in this property. So if you were thinking of this for your personal property where you live, you'd be forfeiting your homestead right, which is often 10% or possibly more, depending on what exceptions you have or exemptions you have. And then finally, or not finally, but also mortgages. This is a big one. If you have a mortgage on the property, your loan and security deed basically say you cannot convey any interest of this property to anyone else, and that includes your LLC. So you would be impacting the due on sale clause, which says when you do this, that the loan is immediately due and payable, that you're in default. Now, that's not going to happen all that often. The lenders do not call these loans as much as they may, it may make you feel. They just want to make sure you're paying your mortgage, but there are a couple of hiccups, and the big one is insurance. So if you've got a loan on the property and you set up the insurance in your personal name, but then you later switch it to the LLC, well, now the LLC has to be listed on the homeowner's insurance because the LLC is the owner. But the bank, as part of their annual audit, will verify that the taxes were paid and the insurance is paid. And if they look at the insurance policy, they look at that declarations page, they're going to see that the LLC is now the listed beneficiary. So if they see that the LLC is a listed beneficiary, it could kind of highlight some sort of audit issue. And they may know at that point, hey, I know you've been paying your mortgage, but you've transferred this property. You're in default. You don't see it all that often, but it does happen. I see it maybe once every 6 months or so. So that is the risk that you take in doing this. But if the benefits outweigh the risks, we're happy to do it. I just want to make sure that you're educated about it, that you're doing it with full knowledge. And I would say the most of the time, the reason people would do this is the property is essentially paid off or very, very close to that. It's a rental or a fix and flip. And we're just trying to isolate that property in the event something were to happen. Now, I'll finish up with a personal story. Before I joined Campbell and Brannan, I built subdivisions throughout the Southeast. And we had a property that was owned by one of our LLCs in a different state. And I think it was the first day that we owned it, maybe the second day. One of the people that lived in the neighborhood was on an ATV and got very seriously injured on our property. It was, I don't know, 150 acres or something like that. And he got very seriously injured. And so his family sued the property owner. Luckily we had insurance, and luckily we weren't necessarily at fault. We didn't cause any liability. We weren't the ones that, we weren't inviting any of this activity, and we hadn't done anything to make it more dangerous. So we ended up being fine. But if it was in our personal name and there was that lawsuit, well, that lawsuit took almost 3 years to settle. And in the meantime, it was almost impossible to sell the property. And if that had also attached to my personal residence or to any of my other properties that I owned, that would have been a major disaster. I don't know how I could have explained that one to my wife. So I think, that there's a lot of reasons why you want to do it that way, to throw it into an LLC. And if you really are interested in it, we would love to help you. We really would. You can go on our website, get more information. You can go to campbellandbrannan.com/deed-prep, DEED-PREP. And there's a form that you can fill out, and it will just basically let you tell me what you want to do, what type of LLC you want to start. And I'd be happy to help you. I really would. But I want to make sure you're going into it open eyes with all the information. So thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Best of luck.